Welcome back to Maniacs, the official podcast of the WVU Student Section. Well, Maniacs, it has been a few weeks since the last time you heard or have seen from us. And what can I say? It's been a rough few weeks for Mountaineers, especially the football team. We'll dive into a little bit of that. Actually, let's just dive right in now. Guys, the last time we talked, we were coming off a win against Oklahoma State, if I'm correct, heading into an Iowa State game, the Coal Rush, where we thought, we had a chance to show Rocco Beck what could have been had he come to Morgantown. And, well, let's just say that game did not go the way we thought. Mountaineers ended up losing 28-16 in the first real night game of the year. It was just a lot of things went wrong. It was not as close as the final score showed. 12-point game. It just really, I don't know what the problem was really. And then last Saturday was even worse. Kansas State comes to town. It's 17-3 early in the second quarter. And we cut it 17-10 at halftime. Almost score again right before the half, but it's a one-score game at halftime. And then the second half, we just got outplayed and outcoached. To quote Neil Brown, we got outplayed and outcoached. Garrett Green, Wyatt Milam, and Jaheim White were all out with upper body injuries, and that took away a lot of our offensive star power. Put a lot on the shoulders of C.J. Donaldson and Nico Marchiol, and it just ultimately came up short. Dropped that one 45-18. So rough couple weeks. Honestly, I don't see a point in beating a dead horse. Talking about the past too awful much. If I'm being honest, I'd rather just move on. We'll talk about Arizona a little bit because what's done is done. The past is past. We had 2 straight night games at home, great environments, just couldn't come away with the win. And to be fair, they were better teams, at the end of the day. Iowa State and Kansas State were both better teams, but, I think Mountaineer Nation would have liked for the Ears to at least pull out one win out of the 2, The Iowa State game was a game that we were in for most of the game. Kansas State, we just got outplayed, I think, from the opening kickoff, but Iowa State, we scored first, held them to a missed field goal, got the ball back, and then we missed a field goal ourselves, and it's like the wheels fell off from there. So, this is the Mountaineers are 3-4. They're 2-2 in the conference right now. They're sitting mid-table in the conference. But a big game this week at Arizona, kicking off at 7 o'clock on FS1. The Wildcats came into the year with Big 12 title aspirations, but they are also currently 3-4. However, they are 1-3 in the conference, with losses to Texas Tech, BYU, and Colorado. But they did get also a loss at Kansas State that is not being counted as a conference game. But they also lost to the Wildcats 31-7 earlier in the year. They did, however, beat Utah. So this Arizona team, it's a game. Noah Fafita, the sophomore quarterback's thrown for almost 1,800 yards, has 9 touchdowns on the year, does have 10 interceptions. So he is not the most accurate quarterback in the conference, but he does have a little bit of firepower. If the Wildcats can, score early, they like to rely on the defense to win them the rest of the game. So that's something we got to be looking out for. What would you guys say after watching the last 2 weeks? What needs to be our keys to the game if we want to come out of Tucson with the win and get back to 500 and keep looking forward?
Well, I would say the first thing you have to do to kind of go to Tucson and get that win is you have to stop Tetaroa McMillan. He's been basically a dog all year. I believe he has like 800 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. He's their wide receiver 1. He's probably going to be a top 10, top 20 pick in the draft with kind of how he's played so far. And their offense kind of runs through them. They have an okay rushing game, uh, but the biggest thing is we've kind of been just poor, not even poor, I would say pitiful when it comes to defending the pass this season. And if you have a wide receiver like that, with the last two games, we've seen 60, 70 plus yard touchdowns down the center of the field. If you have those kind of mental mistakes and those errors to where you let up something deep like that, I mean, they're soul crushing plays. Especially, I mean, being in the stadium the last 2 weeks, you see a play like that and it just takes the air out of a team. And it goes from being a competitive game to feeling like you're down 3 touchdowns instead of just one. We did a good job, I think, last week. That's one of the only positives is kind of defending the run, and we got to make sure that we keep up that. But at the end of the day, you gotta stop letting up big plays because that has been what has killed us all year. We've been able to get people to the third, fourth down, and we haven't been able to stop them. I remember last week we had a fourth down and we let them convert. And those are the kind of plays that are going to make or break this game. I think the sports books have us at 3-point dogs, but according to ESPN analytics, we have like a 52% chance to win the game. I don't know how that works out. Vegas may know something that ESPN doesn't. But at the end of the day, I think you have to defend the pass, make sure that you're getting pressure on Noah Fafita. He's been kind of underperforming for what a lot of people thought he would be this year, especially with our new head coach. It's kind of hard to kind of get that cohesion. But I think the biggest thing is just defending that run and defending that pass and making sure that we don't let up those chunk plays because that is what will take the air out of us and will hype up that Wildcat fan base.
Yeah, Joel, what about you? I mean, what have you seen the last couple weeks that we got to do basically the opposite of, to win this Saturday?
I'm going to do the opposite of Tyler. And for me, it's our offense. For the past 2 weeks, we haven't scored 20 points. And that is a big red flag for me. And I think one thing we really need to focus on is cleaning up the passing game. A lot of really bad interceptions.
No, that's real. I mean, you talk about interceptions. Garrett Green we had really high aspirations for him. Coming into the season, he's thrown 2 picks in 4 of our last 5 games. 2 picks a game in 4 of our last 5 games. And I'm not dogging him at all. He's made some bad reads, but we had one pick against Kansas State where our receiver just dropped the ball. Dropped the ball and it fell right into the hands of a defender. Our receivers weren't getting separation Saturday. We were dropping easy passes. I can't say too much, negative because I'm not out there every week. Like I'm not a Division I athlete by any means. So I'm not. I can't say it's easy to go out and catch a pass from a quarterback. It might look easy to us up in the stands, but I can't. Say that it's easy, but we do. I think Joel, you're right. We got to clean up on offense. Better quarterback play. Speaking of Garrett, we don't even know if he's going to play at this point. Suffered a concussion against Kansas State, so he could be out. For this game, we saw Nico come in against Kansas State in the second half and had one good touchdown drive there at the end of the game, but still, saw a lot of the same things, missing reads, drop passes, overthrown or underthrown balls. So, we don't know. We don't know who's going to play. The only thing we do know is, if Garrett is going to be out this week, Nico will get the start and we'll have Ryder Burton as the second string. So, potentially you could see Ryder Burton this week, but there's a lot of variables. We talk a lot about this week's a big game. We talked about how we thought Pitt was going to be a game to see where we could see the spirit of this team. We thought Kansas would be a game where we saw the spirit of this team. After that Pitt game, we went on a 2-game win streak. Beat Kansas, beat Oklahoma State. We were 3-2 heading in to Iowa State. Saying okay, maybe we've turned things around. And then 2 weeks later, we're in a complete opposite direction, sitting at 3-4, wondering what's the rest of the season going to be like? So we don't know. This is a game that has so many variables. If Garrett Green's out and Nico starts, that limits some of the things we do on offense. If Garrett does play, is he going to be 100%? Concussions are scary, so it could take a while for him to get back to where he was, and he hasn't been. He said it himself. He hasn't been as good as he knows he can be this year. So there's so much we got to clean up on offense, and then we talk about the defensive side of the ball. Tyler, you mentioned it at one point. You brought it up. We had Kansas State 4th and 5 within their own 30-yard line and gave up a 46-yard play to get a first down, almost into the red zone. I mean, it was just that can't happen. We've talked too many times this year about giving up big plays on 3rd and 4th down. Holding the defense holding stopping the run game really well until we get to that crucial 3rd down. So. There's so many things going on right now with the public, with the media, with the perception of the fan base around coaching staff and coaching decisions. There's a lot of football to be played, guys. We're 7 games in. We still have, 5 games left, including this Saturday. This season's not over by a long shot. You could rattle off 5 straight wins. You'll be 8-4, and win another bowl game. You got 2 back-to-back 9-4 seasons, So keep in mind, this is not the only, last year we also lost 2 games in a row. We lost at Houston, then we lost at Oklahoma State, and then we responded by having 1 loss the entire rest of the season. So I'm not the type of fan that's going to give up easily. I was upset 2 weeks ago against Iowa State. I was upset Saturday. I'm not happy with the way we've played or the way these last 2 games are going to go, but I'm still going to watch the whole game Saturday. I'm still going to be, at Milan Puskar Stadium here in 3 weeks when we play Baylor and 4 weeks when we play UCF. I'm not going anywhere, and I don't think our fan base should either. But you never know. Can't please everyone, but I think that there's some things we got to clean up. But I think this game's winnable. I do. I think if we play to what we're capable of, if we play clean football, we have to limit mistakes. Last year we were really good about not turning the ball over very often. This year is not the case. So we need to play clean football. We have to make sure we take care of the ball when we're on. When we're on offense, we have to make sure we get takeaways on defense. We can't give up these big plays on huge chunk plays on 3rd and 4th down. We need to be taking the ball away from the opposing offense, and we need to make sure that we don't let stupid penalties happen or stupid no calls, affect the way that we play the game. Against Iowa State, there were a couple intentional grounding calls that we thought were for sure going to get called. They didn't happen. There was the phantom defensive holding call there in the 3rd quarter on what would have been 3rd and goal. That would have kept Iowa State from scoring a touchdown. So we can't. And then Saturday, Garrett got hit out of bounds once that we thought was going to be 15 yards and it wasn't. And we just let that no call killed our momentum. We can't let that happen, and we can't let stupid penalties, like a false start in the red zone or, holding after a 20, 30-yard run. Those can't happen. So a lot of variables here. The Mountaineers take on the Arizona Wildcats this Saturday at 7 o'clock on Fox Sports 1, the 3rd straight night game. Let's see if 3rd time's the charm for the Mountaineers. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Mountaineer basketball, men and women's, as the hoop season is right around the corner. Stay tuned. Well, Maniacs, hoop season is here. The Mountaineer basketball teams are gearing up for successful seasons, both on the men's side and the women's side. We'll get into both. We'll start here with the men's. Last Friday, the Mountaineers faced the University of Charleston Golden Eagles, UC, a Division II school from the state capital. The Mountaineers won 94-61, a really big win for the Mountaineers. Obviously, an exhibition game against the Division II school. There were a lot of positives, a lot of things that we can take away to work on, but a lot of good things that we saw too. Four Mountaineers were in double figures. Tucker DeVries, Amani Hansberry, Javon Small, and Jonathan Powell all finished with double figures. Tucker DeVries he's a star. Javon Small is a star. Amani Hansberry is a star. Sincere Harris finished with 9 points, 2 blocks, and a steal. The Mountaineers could be a team to be reckoned with. We were talking amongst ourselves, and I said that about 15 to 16 wins is reasonable for the Mountaineers, coming off a 9-23 season, and I stand by that after watching what I saw last Friday. I'm not going to go out and say that we're going to win the Big 12, win it all this year. Obviously, hard to do in the premier. It's hard to win the premier basketball conference in the country, and that's what the Big 12 is. We lose Texas and Oklahoma, but you gain Arizona, gain Colorado, who's gearing up to have a successful year. You still have Kansas, you still have Iowa State, Kansas State, and you still have West Virginia. The Big 12 is going to be. Big 12 is going to be a battle. It always is. There's a lot to look forward to. Some of the, I guess, really, if we look at the men's basketball schedule, there's an early game that sticks out, and I think you guys know what it is. After we open the season against Robert Morris, then a couple days later we have UMass at home in a rematch from last year. Hopefully we can right that wrong. And then November 15th on a Friday, we're going to the Peterson Event Center to take on Pitt. And, hopefully get them back for that debacle last year, But from what you guys saw, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. What did you guys see in the exhibition game? And what are you looking forward to this year for the Mountaineer men's basketball team?
Well, I'll start off kind of my little spiel by giving some stats. Uh, a big thing that glares out to me, especially with kind of how we've dealt with it over the last couple of years, we were 15 for 16 from the free throw line. That's 93%. In the Big 12, the biggest thing is when and I'm the first to say that West Virginia is not keen to getting fouls called on the opposing teams. It doesn't happen much, but when it does, and we get to the line, making those free throws is crucial. And people can talk about, University of Charleston isn't a team in the Big 12, obviously. But the biggest thing, the fact that we're making those free throws, that is a testament to kind of the team and also to Coach DeVries and being able to make sure that we're good in that area, because especially as a smaller team, there's a lot of chances that down low we're going to end up getting fouled a lot. So getting the line and making those free throws is huge. We shot great from beyond the arc. We were 33%. I'll take that. 11 for 33. And we were especially good in the first half. We basically made 50% of our 3-point shots. And as a team that's kind of smaller, a little undersized, we're going to have to spread the floor, and we're going to have to be able to hit the three ball. And it's good to see a WVU basketball team sharing the ball, spreading the court. It's something new. We really haven't kind of run a lot of this offense. And it's very modern, I would say, at least for the times of basketball right now. And we shot 47%. If you make half your shots, you're going to win most basketball games. And I know a lot of people, like I said before, are going to say, the competition isn't as good. But the biggest thing is making sure that when we are able to kind of get those shots up, that they go in. That's a huge thing. I haven't seen a WVU team score 90 plus in a long time. And being able to kind of spread the floor like we have is going to be huge, especially when we're playing against Big 12 bigs. Because I've noticed, at least from the game that I watched and the practice, we're not super big, but we're long. A lot of the guys have extremely long wingspans. They're able to kind of get in lanes, tip passes, that sort of deal. And I think it's really beneficial. I think a lot of the things that we saw in this exhibition game are going to translate well, especially early in the season when we're kind of playing the UMasses, the Pitts, teams that aren't kind of privy to that Big 12 brand of basketball. And I think playing a lot of those teams early will benefit us once we get to conference play. But in a league like this, you only really need probably half of your Big 12 wins to make the tournament. And I have really high hopes for this basketball team. I know it's year one, year zero, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to move some people, and we're going to build a brand of basketball that a lot of people are going to kind of tune into this year.
Yeah, Joe. What about you? I mean, what did you get from the exhibition? What do you want to see from the Mountaineers this year?
A big thing that I was going to say that Tyler said was us shooting from the line. Um, a lot of times last year, like I can think back, and there are several games where I'm like, if we hit the majority of our free throws, we win this game. So that's a huge thing for me. Um, Also looking at some stats, I mean, we had 4 players with double-digit points. That's really promising to me because, like Tyler said, we're not being greedy with the rock. We're passing it. Making that extra pass. A lot of times in basketball, that extra pass can make a huge difference. And with 4 dudes, 4 players with double-digit points, to me that's a lot better than one dude with like 20 points, and then you look up, and the rest of the guys have like 4 points, 3 points, 5 points instead of this year where it's 18, 11, 11, 11, 11. It's really promising. And like Tyler said, some people can be like, oh, this isn't the same kind of competition. But if you go back to our exhibition game last year, it was pretty dirty. It got down and dirty a couple times. And, no disrespect to Coach Eilert, um, we beat Kansas last year. We beat Texas last year. Um, this team already, in my opinion, looks a lot better. I think the biggest problem is just going to be the bonding of it. I think that's a problem that a lot of people might overlook is that these guys are all just coming in from different places. I mean, we only have one returning player from last year, but um, I think as the year goes on, these guys are going to start realizing the tendencies of their teammates, where they're going to be, where to look, all these things, and pieces are going to start getting put into places, and it's just going to go up and up. And I'm really excited for basketball this year. I think we can definitely make it to the Big 12 tourney, and I think we can make it to March as well.
Yeah, no, I was impressed by a lot of things. One of the things that I really liked is, even though we're not the tallest team out there, our length is going to be a huge asset this year. We're long. We were poking the ball away. We were getting steals. We played with a great defensive intensity. Offensive rebounding could use some work, but there was a lot of improvement from last year. Last year we weren't really going to the ball a lot. This year, from this exhibition, we were going to the ball. We might not come down with it every time, but we're contesting for rebounds. And, Tyler, you mentioned ball movement. One player that I want to shout out that I think is going to be great is freshman guard KJ Tenner. This guy stays in Morgantown for 4 years. He's going to develop amazing. He ended with 6 points, played, I think, 10, 12 minutes, but he had an impact on the floor. He moved the ball extremely well. He was everywhere he went. He took 2 defenders with him. So he made sure guys got open. So there's a lot to look forward to with this men's basketball season. I guess some of our biggest games. We have that early game, like I mentioned, at Pitt. The first game, we're playing in the Battle for Atlantis tournament. First game, November 27th, you're home against Gonzaga. Then, after that tournament, you're coming home December 6th against Georgetown in the Big 12 Big East battle. And that really rounds out, the biggest parts of your, non-conference schedule. Then you open the conference schedule, on New Year's Eve at Kansas. So, this is, like you said, Tyler, it's year one. We're not expecting, a national championship year one. We're just hoping that we play a little bit harder with a little more intensity and we get a few more W's in the win-loss column this year. But year one of the Darren DeVries era is upon us, and I'm excited for it. Another era in Mountaineer basketball is the Mark Kellogg era. We're heading into year two of Mark Kellogg heading up the WVU women's basketball team. This is a team that last year went 25-8. So this team knows how to win. I think there's all of us have a little bit of a sour spot in our mouths from that loss to Caitlin Clark and Iowa in the second round of the NCAA tournament last March. Some questionable calls late in the game. Mountaineers ended up losing, I think it was 64-54 in a game that was much closer than that 10-point final scoreline showed. A game that was tied with 2 minutes to go in the game. The Mountaineers held Iowa to their lowest scoring all year and played them tougher than anybody, including anyone in the rest of the tournament teams that were looking a lot more. The Mountaineers dropped a couple games last year in the regular season. Looked to competed for a regular season Big 12 title, dropped a couple close games. But this year they're back. We returned 3 premier players in Jordan Harrison, J.J. Quinterly, and Kyle Watson. So this is a team that is stacked from head to toe. Really, I guess that's all you can say. This is a team that came in, I think it was 6th preseason poll in the Big 12, which I thought was crazy low for year two. A team that made it to the round of 32, and with a couple more shots falling and a couple more whistles swallowed, like should have been, would have pulled off one of the greatest upsets. We're a few minutes away from one of the greatest upsets in women's college basketball history. I thought that was a little disrespectful, that ranking. The Mountaineer women do come in at 16th overall in the AP poll, the preseason AP poll, which I thought was a little more accommodating. I thought that's a good place to go. If we run down the women's schedule, you open November 5th, the day after the men's season opener. You're opening up against Towson. Then that Saturday, you've got Niagara. The week of November 11th, though, you have 2 really big games. You have a home game. You have a home backyard brawl against Pittsburgh and former WVU commit Marley Washenitz, a Pittsburgh starter who is one of their premier point guards. So it'll be nice to welcome her back and show her what a winning basketball program is like. And then, later that week you have Texas A&M coming to town, and that's a huge game. If late, when later in the year you're looking at NCAA seeding, that game's going to be huge for RPI, for seeding. We're playing on the Gulf Coast Showcase, so you have High Point opening up. You have the potential to play Butler, Texas. You have an away game at Temple, which is huge. And then, opening the year on the road, opening the conference schedule on the road at Colorado is going to be huge, too. Colorado's a Sweet 16 team that lost to Caitlin Clark, that same Caitlin Clark and Iowa team that we did in the Sweet 16. So, that Colorado team is a force to be reckoned with. But what are you guys excited about in the women's basketball world? What are you guys excited for to see the Mountaineers do this year?
It's kind of funny. We're kind of switching up kind of the men's and women's basketball for the kind of styles that they play. It used to be where men's basketball was always a harsh defensive team. They were going to get in your face. They may give up a couple fouls, but you weren't going to score more than 60, 70 points. And that's kind of the identity that this Kellogg team has taken on. JJ, one of the best defensive players in the Big 12, if not the entire country, in my opinion. I think she is the best defensive player in the country.
I think
I don't
she's one
think
of the best
there's an
all-around
argument
players in the
against
country.
that. Uh, I agree. And I honestly took the 16 ranking as a little bit of a slate. I thought if we don't run into Caitlin Clark and those godforsaken refs, that we were an Elite Eight team, a Final Four team. I think our defense is one of the most staggering, in your face kind of defenses that I've ever seen. Watching them play basketball is genuinely fun to do, especially I'm a defensive guy. So I love a team that is going to get steals, that is going to put bodies on bodies and make sure that every point that you have to get, they're going to fight for. So I think overall, I think we're accurately rated based on kind of the way in which they rank things. I think middle of the pack in the Big 12 is outrageous. I think we
Mhm.
are at worst a top 3 to 4 team in the Big 12.
Yeah.
I think that's a slate and a half when it comes to the team that we had last year. And the best thing is we didn't lose a lot. Looking at kind of our team, our core, they're all still there. And I think this is the kind of year two, that kind of sophomore season for Kellogg, that we're going to be able to kind of make some noise. And hopefully we can host a regional, have a little
Hmm.
playoff basketball in Morgantown this year, because that place would erupt.
That's actually, it's funny you mentioned that. Coach Kellogg actually mentioned that today at Big 12 Media Days. He mentioned the environment they had in Iowa City, facing the Hawkeyes last year. And he was like, why don't we go out, win a couple games, and we'll show you what an environment is like in Morgantown. And it's also funny that you mentioned that this team is fun to watch because, they're so in your face. Typically, sometimes when you have a team that is that physical on the defensive side of the ball, they don't score a whole lot. I think of like UVA basketball plays really tough zone defense, but doesn't score. They hold the ball. They make sure that every basket you get is hard fought. But they're not known for a high scoring offense. This is the complete opposite of that. It's the best of both worlds. We have a smothering defense, and then we have a very fast paced, high powered offense built on breakaway points, built on finding, using that open pass to find the extra three. I'm excited. I don't even know what else to say. Joel, what are you looking forward? What do you want to see out of the Mountaineer women's basketball team this year?
Um, I'm really excited for the entire year, mainly because of Coach Kellogg. He's the type of coach that I want to play for if I was, still an athlete. He's very lively on the sideline. He's very passionate about it all. And as a player, that gets you fired up as well. And Press Virginia lives on through Coach Kellogg, and it is a
Sure does.
wonderful thing to see. I mean, like you said, those breakaway points, that's huge. Just a quick little poke at the ball, and then we get a free two. And that adds up. And also, like we also mentioned, we didn't lose a lot of people. So you combine not losing a lot of people with the coach that we have and the culture that he's building with this team, and then building off of last year as well, I can only see us going up. And I think by the end of the year, we can be a top 10, at least ranked team with a playoff game in Morgantown. So I have high hopes for this year. I can't lie. Last year, this team showed a lot of promise. We've mentioned it. If we didn't run into the buzzsaw known as the WNBA Rookie of the Year, Caitlin Clark, we would have made it deeper into March Madness.
Yeah,
But
no
yeah,
hate to Caitlin Clark. I mean,
no,
she played incredible. She's incredible for the game of basketball. The only thing we have issue is the officiating in that game.
yes,
So no, but it definitely was a crazy environment. It was a great game at the end of the day, but I think it left us all a little hungry for more, and I think that's what we're gonna get. I think we're
I think
we're
that's
gonna
with
get a
that
lot
team as
this year.
well. Yeah,
I'm so excited. I think that a Big 12 regular season or a Big 12 conference title Conference tournament title is not out of the picture this year. I don't think that hosting a regional in Morgantown is out of the picture either. I mean, can you imagine? Think about the environment we had for the men's game against Kansas last year. Think about that on steroids when we're hosting a, NCAA women's tournament regional game, and we're the 3 seed in the Albany 2 regional, but we're playing our first 2 games in Morgantown. I mean, imagine that atmosphere. It's given me chills already.
The Mountaineer faithful will show out, and the
Yeah.
Coliseum will be bumping.
So let's put the word out. The Mountaineers are back. Mountaineer Hoops is back. We're ready.
We're so back.
Prepare yourselves, because it's going to be a show.
We need it. We need it bad.
Yeah, we do. Folks, here in a couple minutes, we will give you a quick rundown of Mountaineer Soccer and Mountaineer Volleyball. We will be right back. Stick with us. When we think about football in the Mountain State, typically people think of Milo Pushkar Stadium, but I think the last few years have shown people that Dick DeLess Soccer Stadium is where the real football happens, and that is still the case as the Mountaineer men's soccer team is riding high. Last time we talked, they were, I believe, ranked number 1 in the polls, ranked number 1 nationally again for the second time this year. However, this time it ended a little bit differently. The first time we suffered a couple draws and dropped down to number 4. This week, the last week, did not go the way we wanted. We did lose our first game to a quality Dayton team. Don't let their record fool you. We lost 5-1 to Dayton, and they wanted it more. They wanted that game more. It was just not the Mountaineers' night in Dayton. However, they did respond Saturday. At least we got to sing Country Roads once Saturday as the Mountaineers defeated the South Carolina Gamecocks 1-0. Isaac Shear scored in the 89th minute. The last minute of the game, scored a beautiful header to give the Mountaineers a 1-0 victory, which also put them to number 1 in the Sun Belt Conference standings, 2 points ahead of in-state and conference rival Marshall. So, looking ahead for the Mountaineer men's soccer team, we got 4 games left in the regular season. And these 4 games, if you go, let's put it this way. If you go 4-0, you win the conference regular season title. You're the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. If you go 3-1, you have a shot at winning the conference title. So I would not be surprised if the Mountaineers, at the very best, you're the 1 or the 2 seed. At the worst, you could drop down to, I think, the 4 or the 5 seed. So, these next 4 games are big. We start, we're recording this on October 22nd, Tuesday. Wednesday, the 23rd, the Mountaineers host Georgia State at home. The Panthers of Georgia State at home at 7 o'clock. That's a big one. Then Sunday, October 27th, we're going to Harrisonburg, Virginia to take on the Dukes of James Madison University, who, might I add, sit 3rd. Actually, it's tied for 2nd with Marshall in the conference. So that's a huge away game. Senior night for the Mountaineers is October 31st, Halloween, as we take on the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina University, who are having themselves a pretty decent season. The Chanticleers were, started off pretty rough, but they have really responded these last couple of games. They played Marshall. Let me look here. Let me find the schedule. Yeah, they just played James Madison and Marshall back-to-back and tied both 0-0. So that's not a team to be reckoned with either. I would say that the Mountaineers have their toughest stretch of the schedule ahead of them. And we close it all. We close the regular season in the scum bucket that is Huntington, West Virginia, playing in the Mountain State Derby against our hated rival, the Marshall Thundering Herd. So, national rankings came out today. Marshall goes up to 4. We drop to number 6. I'm a little upset we dropped to number 6 and that Pitt's number 2 with 3 losses where we only have 1. In the NCAA D1 committees for the tournament, their top 16, we ended up getting the 12 seed. So that's just basically saying if the NCAA tournament started today, that's where we would be. We would be the 12 seed, which I think is low. I think if the Mountaineers show they are who we know they are in these next 4 games, we win the Sun Belt regular season, potentially win the Sun Belt, conference tournament title too, you make a really big push to be a top 8 seed at least, if not even higher. So we will see. Moving on to the Mountaineer women's soccer. Last time we talked, they had just come off, I believe, a 1-0 win against UCF. They have dropped 2 games since, with 2 wins. They've gone 2-2 since the last time we've talked. They have lost to TCU 3-1 and Texas Tech 1-0 here in Morgantown, but did defeat Baylor 2-0 in Waco, and last Sunday defeated Colorado 2-0. So that puts them right now at 3rd in the conference, behind Texas Tech and TCU, the only 2 teams they've lost to in the conference. The only game the Mountaineers have left is a game this coming Friday at Houston, who is currently sitting 15th in the conference for soccer. So win there, the Mountaineers will more than likely finish 3rd in the conference, get the 3 seed heading into the conference tournament, and win a couple games there. You have a very good shot at making the NCAA tournament. I think we will be an at-large bid team anyway. We are 11-4-2 overall. We're 7-2-1 in the conference. So we are 3-3-1 away. We're much better at home, 8-1-1. So we are sitting pretty good at 3rd. We are not ranked. Once again, the United Soccer Coaches Poll has decided to ignore the fact that we are 3rd in what is probably one of the top 2 conferences in women's soccer in the country. So we are receiving votes. We received 8 votes in today's poll, but are still not ranked. So a lot to be said. If the Mountaineers want a Sun Belt title on the men's side, if they want a Big 12 title on the women's side, it's theirs for the taking. The ball is in their court. We'll mention basketball again. The ball is in their court. It's up to them. They've both these teams have battled after some results have not gone the way they want them to in different ways. Obviously the men did not want to lose 5-1 against Dayton. The women did not want to drop early contests at Clemson and Penn State, and then drop a couple contests to Texas Tech and TCU. But that doesn't mean the season's over. We have plenty of opportunities left. So I'm excited. I don't know about you guys. There's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be done, So a lot of questions about these 2 teams. Their goals of conference titles and national titles are within reach, but it's up to them at this point. It depends on how much they want it. We're going to be there in the stands at Dick DeLess, cheering loud and proud, but it's up to them. One more quick mention. We do want to talk about the WVU volleyball team who got their first conference win last Wednesday, avenging a loss to UCF earlier in the year. Early in the year, October 2nd, we played the Gold Knights of UCF in Orlando and lost 3-0. But last Wednesday, after dropping the first set, the Mountaineers battled back, took 3 sets in a row to win 3-1, get their first conference victory of the year, and avenged the loss to Central Florida. So, that's just a testament to how resilient this team is. The Mountaineers are currently sitting at 7-11 overall. They are 1-6 in the conference, but this was a crazy, crazy game. We were there, we were watching it. It was fun. It was so much fun to watch. The fourth set ended 29-27. These 2 teams kept going back and forth. Neither team wanted to lose that fourth set, and we just came out on top. So what did you guys take away from that? And heading into our last few matches of the year, what do you guys have to say?
I think one thing we can take away from that game is how much kind of a crowd can get behind a game, especially towards that UCF game towards the end where it was back and forth and they just kept trying to come back, and we found a way to kind of break away towards the end and get that crucial second point that kind of gave us that lead in the fourth set. I think the biggest thing is as this volleyball program with a new head coach kind of comes into new light and kind of moves on, especially next year. Looking forward, I think a big thing is just making sure that we get students in the stands because it does have an effect. We were there. That was one of the most fun games I've been to, especially at the end when everybody was going crazy. But I think that's something that's important to be said. And then I think the track of this team is going in a good direction. You see, Coach Greeny, it's going to take a little bit of time. But at the end of the day, once I I fully believe and her to make sure that this team gets right on the right track. And I know 1-7 in conference isn't great, but I think we're going to be able to pull it around, maybe get another win or two. But I think at the end of the day, I think this program's in the right direction. And overall, volleyball is just fun. It is a fun sport to watch. And let's get the support up and kind of keep chugging along when it comes to that.
Yeah, I don't understand why we don't get more students out to volleyball. So if you guys are looking to watch a fun, energetic Mountaineers team, please come to volleyball games. These women deserve our support. They fight. I mean, it is amazing the athleticism it takes to play a 5 set match, a 3 to 5 set match. So I mean, sorry, I'll get off my soapbox here, but Joel, what are you looking forward to for the rest of the Mountaineers season? Really, in any sport, we talked about volleyball, we talked about men and women's soccer. What else needs to be said? What haven't we covered?
For volleyball, I like to say that after you get that first conference win and you look at the players and you see how much it meant to them, it's safe to say that it's not a culture thing. It's just first year as a new head coach coming in, trying to rebuild this program. So I'm a big culture guy, and seeing how much it means to them and seeing how hard they fight is a huge thing to me, and it's a great sign for the future. And I also want to shout out our great Mountaineer predicting it to be 4-1 after the first set to me. So that's all I got.
That's true. Guys, we talked a lot today. We talked about the football team, and their recent struggles. Looking forward to watching them players. I know we talked about the men and women's basketball team, how we are excited for both of those. We talked the men and women's soccer team, how their aspirations are within reach. We talked about the volleyball team battling back. Um, I guess what I was going to say is that Mountaineers are resilient. We've been through a lot this year, sporting events in the last year. So, but hey, that's a true testament of not just a fan of college athletics, but a true testament of a Mountaineer, someone who keeps showing up no matter what long odds, no matter what happens. So, Maniacs, keep coming out. We need you. They need you. It shows. Trust me. It definitely helps. With that being said, I guess all there is left to say is let's go. Mountaineers.
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 Cue it.